strengths and weaknesses as he looks to expand presidential power. Overall, 42% approve of the president's job performance, with 56% disapproving. Trump's approval on the economy, though, keeps falling, now at 36%, with just 30% approving on his handling on the cost of living. Michael Hardaway and Brendan Buck are back with me. So, guys, I'm starting with you, Michael. Are these numbers that Democrats should be pouncing on, since perceptions on the economy can drive elections?
They absolutely have to. Donald Trump, in some part, ran on inflation. Inflation is high today. It's higher today than it was this time last year under Joe Biden. You've got 7 million Americans who are unemployed. You've got layoffs surging 40% last month alone. Donald Trump's policies are choking the American middle class, and Democrats have to take that and they have to incorporate that into their message. This economy is a complete disaster. You've got $1.2 trillion in credit card debt, largely because Americans are now relying on that and buy now, pay later just to buy groceries in Donald Trump's economy. And so it matters. The economy always matters, and Democrats have to use that.
So, Brendan, Trump does get slightly higher marks on crime, 43% approval on that. But only 1 in 5 respondents say they often feel unsafe because of high crime in their area. And then only 32% of Americans say they'd feel safer with armed soldiers deployed to large cities in their states. So is Trump going farther than the public wants?
Well, we often find in polling that people say that they are doing personally better, whether it's economically, maybe with crime, than they feel like the country is doing. And that's just sort of maybe this dynamic that we were talking about earlier, sort of social media always telling you things are terrible. I will say, I don't think the economy is a disaster. I think that there are real warning signs in the economy, and most people show that they actually feel okay themselves. But there's a lot of people who look out and see more crime than they would like. They see prices higher than they would like, and it creates an uneasiness. Donald Trump, I think, was elected largely to fix the economic problems that existed under Joe Biden. Cost of living. I mean, that was the bottom line. He had to fix that, and he's really not done a lot to help there. And in fact, we can argue pretty clearly that his tariff policy is making it worse. So at some point, that's going to come due, and you're starting to see that softening in his polling. At the same time, he's got a base of about 40% of the country who's never going to turn away from him, so it may not matter a ton in the end.
Well, here's something that, though, the president could be worried about, because, Michael, Americans are wary of Trump's attempts to expand his power. 62% say the president should not have the power to control police in their city or town. 59% say the president should not control museums and theaters. 57% say the president should not set interest rates and direct companies where to manufacture their goods. How do Democrats harness that?
Again, they have to incorporate that, just like this terrible economy. That has to be a part of their message. America was founded because we don't want kings. That's the whole point of this country. And so Donald Trump is trying to behave like a king. The Speaker of the House is letting him behave like a king. The Senate Majority Leader is letting him behave like a king. The Democrats have to use this energy that voters have on both sides in terms of wanting their autonomy and not wanting to be ruled by a king, and incorporate that into their platform. I mean, the idea that he wants to essentially use American soldiers domestically against American voters is outrageous. It's outrageous. If he thinks crime is up, he should do like Bill Clinton did in the 90s and hire 100,000 more cops across this country. Instead, he's cutting police budgets. That is the issue, and Democrats have to message that and inform voters of that.
So, Brendan, 31% say the president should be able to run the country without interference from courts and Congress. 31%. Does that number give Trump the mandate he claims he has?
Well, no, but that's absolutely the number that sticks out to me there. That's an extraordinarily high number of people in this country who feel like a president should be unencumbered by the way our government was founded and has operated for 250 years. I mean, that's stunning. And I think it just kind of shows you the sort of cult of personality that exists around him. Our country is great for a lot of reasons, and one of them is the separation of powers. And they are obviously trying to whittle away at that. I don't think that a lot of these issues are really under threat. I don't think most city Police departments are under threat. I don't think most museums are under threat. But the fact that many people tell you that
For
they
Republicans,
are okay with that
the
kind of
current
thing,
trajectory raises
tells you
concern.
all you need to know
Donald
about
Trump
how
right now
Donald
is
Trump
upside
operates.
down in some
he gets all
polls
that
on
feedback that
immigration.
people cheer
Yeah,
on
and
when he
that's-
does stuff. When he goes into a city, people cheer. And that just reinforces him doing more and more stuff like that.
Hang on, is that going to be mostly a pro-MAGA or people that identify as MAGA? Because you said 40% of the country is never going to leave him, and only 31% said we're good with him running the country the way he wants to.
I still think that's a really high number for people. Those are all clearly his supporters, but that's the world he lives in. I mean, we are back to kind of where we've always been with Donald Trump, where there's about a third of the country who is going to be with him forever. There's another 10 or 15% they're going to give him the benefit of the doubt, and then the other half of the country just doesn't like him. I mean, that's just kind of how we are as a country, and he doesn't really care about that half that doesn't like him. He cares about that 30 to 40% that's with him all the time, and he's going to keep riding as long as they're riding with him.
So, Michael, speaking of the economy, you have Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, who was questioned by Axios about many of the warning signs that we are seeing lately. Take a listen.
Inflation in August ticking up to 4.3%, the highest since 21. Manufacturing activity shrank in August, 6 months running. Unemployed workers exceeding job openings. If Biden had numbers like that, you'd be on Fox saying, what's going on?
So the economy that Donald Trump owns starts at the end of this year. You can't get, well,
Does it work that way? Will voters give Trump grace on this? And if so, for how long?
We would have to be stupid to believe what he just said. It's completely outrageous that the Secretary of Commerce is telling us that the president is not responsible for this current economy when he controls every branch of government, and because his trade war is driving this economy off a cliff. Of course, voters are smarter than he gives them credit for. They're not going to believe that, because this current economy, with 7 million unemployed people and people struggling just to get by with sky-high prices, is Donald Trump's economy. And going back to our earlier conversation, it is the job of Democrats to educate voters on that fact.
Brendan, I'm going to give you the last word on this one. How do you see it?
Well, he's hardly the first politician to say they've got a lot of work to do to dig out from the past. I mean, you would hear that all the time from Obama and things like that. So that's not necessarily novel. What I find funny is that this is an administration that sure likes to take credit when there is a good jobs month or there is a low inflation month. You know, they'll jump on that any moment. People will give someone grace for.
A massive leak of 18,000 previously unreleased emails from Jeffrey Epstein's personal Yahoo account has surfaced, obtained by Bloomberg, offering new details on his predatory behavior and close collaboration with Ghislaine Maxwell. The emails reveal Maxwell's significant role in Epstein's criminal enterprise, contradicting her claims of a limited role during a prior interview with the Trump-era DOJ. They also touch on Epstein's 2008 Florida plea deal and mention President Trump in minor instances, though no major new evidence implicates him directly. The emails expose Epstein's chilling tactics, including discussions with Maxwell on recruiting and grooming young women, some minors, and discrediting accusers. In one exchange about his 2008 plea deal, Epstein asked Maxwell, "Which one do you prefer? Lewd and lascivious conduct or procuring minors for prostitution?" She responded, "I suppose lewd and lascivious conduct. I would prefer lewd conduct with a prostitute if possible." Their casual tone suggests familiarity with the legal jeopardy, with over 200 messages exchanged in 6 months that year. Maxwell's claim of a very, very diminished role is undermined by her active involvement in managing Epstein's affairs as he faced prison. An accounting spreadsheet detailed nearly $2 million in spending, including payments to victims and gifts to prominent figures, such as a car for Alan Dershowitz, for his wife, he clarified, and an $11,000 Rolex for Tom Barrack, then ambassador to Turkey, who denied receiving it. The emails also reveal Epstein's callousness, with one berating a female employee for refusing fun sex things, highlighting his emotional manipulation of women in his orbit. Trump's name appears in 3 minor contexts. In 2007, Maxwell noted reporters might have approached Trump about Epstein's case, writing, "You have to assume they went to Donald Trump." In 2006, after Epstein's charges, a list of 51 politicians and executives was reviewed, with Epstein instructing, "Remove Trump," alongside one other person. The White House dismissed this as fake news, and the emails provide no clear insight into Trump's role beyond a known social connection. Prior reports, including photos, have documented their acquaintance. The emails also shed light on Epstein's broader operations, including a lobbying campaign to evade accountability and his ability to infiltrate elite circles. While his wealth source remains unclear, the documents show mundane purchases, like Nabisco Nilla wafers, an FBI agent costume, and a prostate massager, juxtaposed with his predatory schemes. No evidence of blackmail against others emerged, but Epstein's manipulation of victims was stark. Epstein survivors, emboldened by the leak, are advocating for accountability. One declared, "Accountability is what makes a society civilized," announcing plans to compile a list of alleged abusers. "We know the names. Many of us were abused by them. We are tired, but we will not stop or give up," she said. The emails, unverified by other outlets, align with prior DOJ findings under former FBI Director James Comey, reinforcing Maxwell's central role in Epstein's sex trafficking network. Epstein, who died in custody in 2019, and Maxwell, now serving a 20-year sentence, remain at the center of this saga. The emails highlight systemic failures that allowed Epstein to operate among the powerful for years. Survivors' push for justice continues to challenge those who enabled or ignored the abuse, as the public grapples with the scope of Epstein's influence and the complicity of those around him.